The Wendigo's Curse. Long ago, in a village deep within the forests of the Great Lakes, there lived a young woman named Akia. Akia was known throughout her village for her kindness and generosity. She would help the elders gather firewood, share food with those in need, and always offered a helping hand to anyone who needed it. However, the winters in this part of the world were brutal, and food was always scarce during the cold months. Every year, the people would prepare for a long and harsh winter, hunting the forests for game, trapping rabbits and beavers, and storing away whatever they could. One year, however, a particularly harsh winter descended upon the village. Snow piled high on the ground, and the ice-cold winds blew relentlessly through the trees. The people hunted, but the game had grown scarce. Days turned to weeks, and the villagers' food stores began to dwindle. Desperation began to set in. Akia, seeing the suffering of her people, decided she would venture farther into the forest than anyone had dared before, hoping to find something, anything to bring back to the village. She gathered her bow and arrow, a hunting knife, and set out alone, determined to find the game that would save her people. She traveled deep into the forest, where the trees grew taller and the shadows darker. The snow was thick on the ground, muffling her footsteps as she moved cautiously through the woods. Days passed and Akia's provisions grew low, but she did not give up. Her hunger grew, but it was nothing compared to the hunger of the village, so she pushed on, convinced she would find something to save them. One night, as the moon rose high in the sky, Akia stumbled upon a clearing. There in the center was a strange sight. A man, gaunt and emaciated, with long, sharp claws and a wide mouth filled with jagged teeth. His pale skin was stretched over his bones, and his eyes were glowing yellow like burning embers. Akia froze in horror as she realized she was face to face with the Wendigo, the spirit of insatiable hunger. The Wendigo turned toward her, its voice rasping with a hunger that seemed to echo through the very trees. "You are alone, and you are starving. Why not join me? Together we could feast forever," it whispered, its words wrapping around her mind like a cold fog. Akia's heart pounded in her chest. She knew the legends of the Wendigo, the creature that had once been human but had transformed into a monster through its insatiable desire for flesh. The Wendigo's hunger could never be satisfied, and it sought to spread its curse by turning others into monsters like itself. Despite her fear, Akia stood tall. She clutched her bow tightly and aimed an arrow at the creature. "I will not succumb to your hunger. I will fight," she declared. The Wendigo's eyes flared with rage, and it lunged toward her with terrifying speed. Akia fired her arrow, but it missed, and the Wendigo knocked her to the ground. Her body was cold, her strength draining as the creature's claws scraped against her skin. The Wendigo loomed over her, its breath hot and foul, and it whispered again, its voice seeping into her mind. "Why fight it? Hunger is all that matters. Give in." Akia's vision blurred, and her thoughts began to fade. She felt the emptiness within her grow, a gnawing hunger that seemed to be pulling her into the darkness. But as she lay there, her mind flickering with images of her village, her people, her family, she remembered her duty. She remembered that there were those who depended on her. With all the strength she had left, Akia reached for her knife, clutching it tightly. She plunged it deep into the Wendigo's chest, but instead of blood, a strange, cold mist poured out, and the Wendigo let out a terrible, shrieking cry. The creature staggered back, its form beginning to dissipate like smoke in the wind. The Wendigo, with one last scream, vanished into the night, leaving Akia lying in the snow, her body cold and broken. When the villagers found her, she was barely alive, but she had not been taken by the Wendigo. The curse had been broken, at least for the time being. She had fought off the monster's influence, but the toll was great. Akia's strength was gone, and she was never the same again. The hunger she had felt from the Wendigo never quite left her, and though she lived, she was always haunted by the creature's call. From that day on, the village knew that the Wendigo was always lurking just beyond the trees, waiting for the moment when hunger would drive someone to the brink of madness. And they learned a crucial lesson. Never let the hunger consume you, for it is the Wendigo's true power.